Welcome, folks. On a beautiful July morning in 1969, it has been said that three brave American astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, took off from Cape Kennedy, Florida, riding a rocket straight into history to land on the moon. Was it a hoax? Was it filmed on a soundstage? Did NASA drag the entire world into the biggest lie ever told? It's time now to look straight at the conspiracy, break down what hoax believers actually claim, tear it apart piece by piece, and once and for all, perhaps we can put this thing to bed. Now, before I put it to bed, please click that subscribe button. Please click like, share, comment. Click the notification bell for all the latest episodes. The Moon Landing Hoax in 20 minutes or less. Welcome to Quick and Dirty with Joe Rossano. Welcome to the Quick and Dirty in 20 minutes or less. I am Joe Rossano. People who think that the moon landing was fake all seem to kind of say the same things. Here are those things. We're going to go over them claim by claim. So here is their claim. They claim NASA filmed the whole thing on a Hollywood soundstage. They say the American flag that they planted on the moon, it waves, and it should. The shadows look wrong. And in their haste to fool every man, woman, and child on the planet Earth, they forgot to put stars in the sky. Sounds reasonable. They say the astronauts were actors, that the footage was staged, and the government lied to win the Cold War. They think the technology, quite frankly, just wasn't advanced enough. The rocket couldn't make it. And the radiation belts up in space would have fried the astronauts long before they made it to the moon. They think the photos look too perfect. They think that the lander on the moon looks too flimsy. And the whole thing was just propaganda. That's the hoax theory in plain English. Now, here's the part they leave out. If NASA faked the moon landing, they didn't just fool Americans, they fooled the Russians, aka the Soviets, the one country that wanted America to fail more than anyone else on Earth, no pun intended. They fooled, think about this very carefully, they fooled every single radio telescope, every foreign space agency, every physicist, every astronomer, engineer, contractor, scientist, every reporter, every single person in every single country that was watching the sky. A hoax that big isn't a conspiracy, in my humble opinion, folks. It's a freaking miracle. Now, let's break these hoaxes down one by one and NASA's response. Put in the comments what you believe or who you believe. The hoax believers say the American flag that was put on the moon was waving. Okay. The astronauts shook, says NASA, and in a zero atmosphere, it just keeps moving longer. Hoax believers say NASA forgot to put stars in the sky. That is reasonable. I get that. Now, NASA will tell you that the shutter speeds were purposely made the way they were, and the cameras were set for bright objects, not faint ones. I mean, I can't prove that, but that sounds like a pretty reasonable explanation. But let's call that one a draw for now. They say the astronauts couldn't survive the radiation belts. Those radiation belts were called the Van Allen belts. You might have to Google that one. And they're not death traps, folks. NASA plotted a fast, shallow path through those thinnest parts, limiting exposure well below dangerous levels. And I believe that. They argue the lander was too flimsy. All right. Looked a little flimsy to me. Think about this, though. It wasn't built to survive the Earth. It was built to survive the moon. Okay, no atmosphere, no wind, and no pressure up there, folks. Lightweight is exactly what you want when you're landing on a low gravity piece of rock. They claim NASA staged the photos and all of the footage. The lighting weirdness, according to NASA, is just harsh sunlight and black sky shadows. Plus, consider this now. Thousands of raw images match the physics of the moon perfectly. And hoax believers have never produced a single proven fake. Not one. They believe the government lied to beat the Soviets to the moon. Again, sounds reasonable. Let's just say they're right. Well, again, the Soviets, aka the Russians, tracked the mission, folks, in real time. If they would have faked that, come on now, the Russians would have said, aha, they're faking it. They would have exposed it instantly. They wanted America to fail. They really did. So you really don't think that they would have raised some type of real-time protest? Of course they would have. Now, one other thing the hoax believers ignore: independent imaging of the landing site decades later. Japan, India, and NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter photographed the landing sites. You could still see the landers, the equipment, and the astronauts' tracks. They ignore that thousands of people would have had to keep this a secret. A hoax that big, I want you to consider this, would require engineers, contractors, scientists, radio operators, foreign agencies, the astronauts, their wives, everybody who worked at NASA, to lie for 57 years with zero leaks and no whistleblower. Now, we know Neil Armstrong and his wife got divorced. You don't think that Mrs. Armstrong would have been more than happy to say he lied? How, in God's name, can at least tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people all kept the secret for almost 60 years? That's not a conspiracy, folks. That's impossible. If the moon landing was fake, the cover-up, that's bigger than the mission itself. The hoax theory collapses the second you ask one question: who did NASA fool? Because the answer is everyone. And that's impossible. Now, if you are wondering, hey, Rosano, what pushed you over the edge? What makes you say that moon landing isn't a hoax? Because they went back 5 more times. They went back again in 1969, 2 times in 1971, and 2 more times in 1972. Who, and I repeat, who is dumb enough to try to fool the world 5 more freaking times? Think about this. If somebody robs a bank and the cops don't catch them, even some ridiculously stupid bank robbers are not going to go back to the same bank 5 times. The moon landing wasn't a hoax, folks. The hoax is pretending that it could have been. So, to the 3 brave American astronauts who went to the moon in July 1969, thank you. Yes, it was one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. As always, my dearest friends and fellow Americans, thanks for hanging out with your pal Joe Rosano. Again, please click that subscribe button and like, share, comment, click the notification bell for our latest episodes. I ask you kindly to please take some time to consider adopting yourself a pet. I say God bless you, my dearest friends and fellow Americans, and we will see you next time.